We need to make this very clear. What we're talking about here is a immigrant human. An immigrant human, something that migrates in. And as the Holy Kabbalah, A.E. Waite's Holy Kabbalah says, it is a, how does he put it? An intruder. Something that is not there in the beginning, that is intruding and perpetrating a fraud as a human. The fact of the matter that it was created outside of the general civilization of humanity, of ancient civilization of humanity, when it did show up, people took it as another strain of a race. You see what I'm saying? Another strain of humanity, or what you would call a different aspect of humanity. All because its incubation period was secret. You see, was secret. And so when people saw it thousands of years later, they automatically just thought it was a form of humanity. And as a result, this has been the mistake of indigenous people around the world, because number one, our nature is that to accept. We accept everything. Accept everything. We accept humanity. And there's a difference. Give you an example of what we're talking about here. Because we'll get into the psychological aspect, but this is a good analysis right now. In the workplace, two kind of doggone creeds, two kind of natures. In the workplace, you walk past a black person you know, you say, hey, how you doing? You feel that person. You walk past that person 2 hours later, you might greet them again. You walk past them another 2 hours later, you might greet them. You might greet them all day. But that's us. We go by what we feel, and we go by how we feel about people. There's a difference. We go by how we feel about humanity. Whereas a white boy come, he might greet you in the morning. You see him 2 hours later and you greet him again, he might think you crazy. You understand what I'm saying? Now the difference here is, this species goes by how you make them feel. So you know the old saying, well, I really like you, but you're not like the rest of your people. That is because they don't feel nothing for the rest of your people. They're only responding based on the way that you made them feel. You might have made them feel a certain way. It's like the movie Bingo Long and Traveling All-Stars, which is a basic fundamental thing in all forms of entertainment in America. They took to the road, they broke off from the Negro League. You know the movie, they took to the road, they said they're going to play white teams. They were beating the hell out of the white teams. The white teams was getting all mad, and they had to go in and start doing all kind of buck dance and clowning to kick their behinds. Because the European goes by the way you make him feel, not how he feels about you. There's a difference. You see what I'm saying? It's always, you can produce a certain way to make him feel. He will accept you based on the way you made him feel. But not necessarily accepting you just by being a human. So they can love a Michael Jordan because Michael Jordan has over and above made them feel a certain way based on his talent. But they don't necessarily like the race that Michael Jordan comes from. There is a difference. There's a difference. So we're just talking about two types of natures. Whereas the indigenous person around the world, he accepts you just because you're human. And that is the humane thing to do. So these crews that came in, this particular European that came in, we automatically accepted him because something in the way, something broke down where we didn't have full access on its creation because it was created by a renegade priesthood in secret. And that's what we need to get into tonight also too. And go into this particular science. So what we want to do is we want to go into several aspects of evidence to deal with this. Now, let's get with the evidence right offhand so we'll know, so we can document some of this stuff. Do you know that Mary Shelley's Frankenstein is an adaptation of the creation story of the white man? Here's a book called Tobias Curtin, The Gnostics. The Gnostics is an ancient Camite group of Egyptians during the Alexandrian age and during the latter day period of Kemet at the temple of Isis at Philae. You had Egyptian priests that translated ancient hieroglyphic documents from Metanetta into Coptic religion. This is a book called The Gnostics. The Gnostics is a black ancient group, which in actuality, this is the group that Paul, Josephus, and other writers of the, especially writers of the New Testament, copied the Gnostics' work on the Gnostic Christ that comes out of Kemet, copied their works. And then when the Gnostics rebelled and said, hey, wait a minute, the Jesus that you're talking about here is not the Jesus that we worship, then the Roman government killed off the Gnostics and took their religion. You see the story. It's always a classic thing where somebody, you got two people doing something, one person takes the other person's stuff and then kill the person off. Well, that's exactly what happened. Christianity is a stolen legacy that was killed off by an ancient group of people that was killed off called the Gnostics. And basically, this is the origin of the New Testament. The key here with the Gnostics is they had a Christ long before the birth of so-called Jesus Christ of 2,000 years ago, which basically was mythological aspect historicalized as a political move done by the Roman government. The Gnostics basically were a later-day Camite group that basically refashioned the same Horus myth. The difference between the Gnostics and the later-day Christians, or what you would call, which is the Roman invention, is the Gnostics said that, as well as the Gnostics, the Hebrews, the Arabs, the Sumerians, as well, just any ancient group. Any ancient group, because there's a discrepancy with all this Sumerian stuff and Babylonian stuff, because in actuality, Walter Williams is right on this one. They talk about all these ancient cultures, but we can't go nowhere and find them. They say that Babylonia was as great as ancient Kemet, yet we can't find up with some little clay tablets. we talking about a whole civilization we can't find. So obviously the white man is making up some stuff. But in so many words, these was nothing but doggone states of the same Egyptian government. So all of it was Kemet. All of it was Kemet. The difference is the ancient world said that the Messiah is to come in the last days. The Romans say, no, we're going to make him come 2,000 years ago. And that is the great mystery that's going on. Sublime mythology makes grotesque history. So we're looking at a person of 2,000 years ago. You understand what I'm saying? That the attributes of the divine Christ is supposed to come back in the last days, in the latter days, which is the god Horus, Mithra, Perseus, Jason, Hercules,